What's up, YouTube? It's the Deck Talking Devil. First time I've made a live video since I've been on YouTube. Definitely, if you guys remember back a little while back, I was actually moving, trying to get everything set up. I was doing a lot of stuff from my cell phone. I do have a videographer and photographer who shoots my stuff when he's free and our schedules can align. So big shout out to him, Anthony Hopper. You're the man. So I wanted to do a video today talking about Dr. Ben and primarily how his works have impacted me. So I really want to share some sources, some books that I've read over the years that I think you all would benefit from. So if you guys don't know Dr. Ben, I highly recommend that you go and look him up on YouTube. You could type in Dr. Ben and it should pop up. Or you can type in Dr. Yosef Ben Jochannan. Either way, Dr. Ben is terrific. He's the man. And when I was just waking up, it was kind of a whirlwind because you're trying to figure out, well, what do I do? What do I go? What do I need to read? What do I need to watch? What do I research and study? And I definitely had that situation happen to me where I just awakened, just left the church, and I needed to know where to go, like for real. If you see these books right in here, some of those are books that I started out with by Dr. Martin Luther King, Malcolm X, or the autobiography of Malcolm X, Louis Farrakhan, Michael Eric Dyson, Cornel West, Michelle Alexander. I was reading books like that, Tavis Smiley, The Death of a King, reading those types of books, and it was really opening my eyes to a lot of information that I had never heard. And they would mention different people like Edmund Wilmot Blight. It's a name that came up, and I was like, who the hell is Edmund Wilmot Blight? And so I had to go and look him up, and find out that he had a lot to do with Pan-Africanism, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's been a while, he preceded Garvey on that particular issue and may have even influenced him. I'm not sure there. But that name came up, so I went and researched it. Another name came up, Noble Drew Ali. And I'm like, who is Noble Drew Ali? I never heard the name. Fark Muhammad name would come up. And so I'm like, I never heard of any of these guys, and how is it that they've impacted history so much, and yet I've never heard of them? So I actually had to go and do some research, look the guys up. Another name that would come up was Dr. Ben. Not just Dr. Ben, but usually when you hear Dr. Ben's name, it's mentioned along with guys from ASCAC, or it's mentioned along with guys like Dr. John Henry Clark. If you don't know Dr. Clark, look him up. He is someone that I believe you really need to get acquainted with. You really should know about him and his work in our community. So Dr. Ben was mentioned with Dr. John Henry Clark. He was mentioned with Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Jacob Carruthers, Ashakabusa Barashungo, Dr. Charles Fitch, these guys. It's the other one, Sheikh Anta Diop. Some people say Jop. He was mentioned with Sheikh Anta Diop. All of these different heavy hitters, that I was completely oblivious to, never heard of, didn't know what their contributions were to the movement. So I started looking them up, and man, when I came across Dr. Ben, I want to say Dr. Ben did a lecture here in Birmingham, Alabama. This was way back, this was like early 80s, I believe. But he did a lecture here in Birmingham. I believe it was at UAB, University of Alabama at Birmingham. I believe. Don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I've watched that video. It's on YouTube somewhere. You can find it. But when I watched that video, the information that he was putting out was mind-blowing, and he was putting it out at with some alacrity. He was very passionate when he spoke, and at first it was very difficult for me to understand him, but because he does have a pretty heavy accent, in my opinion. Now, I know, right? If somebody got a heavy accent, I'm usually the one getting accused of that. But for me, in my ears, Dr. Ben's accent was very hard for me to really comprehend what he was saying, what he was articulating. After watching him a while and developing a reference point for what he's saying and what I'm hearing, I began to be able to understand what he was saying a lot better. His parents were Falashans, which is basically Ethiopian Jews. And so you can hear the accent when he's talking. But Dr. Ben was the man. I don't know many people of any rapport in the Pan-African Kemetic RGB community, the conscious community, whatever community you want, whatever label or alphabet you want to assign to them. I don't know many people in the community that does not know and support and promote Dr. Ben and Dr. Ben's information. Now, we can sit on our perch today and say, well, his information's outdated. Well, hell, it's 2020, fixing to be 2021. Of course, some of his information would be outdated. That's a given. But at the time he was writing, he was writing with current information. And so his information was on point. So if you read Dr. Ben's work or if you watch Dr. Ben's videos, then take it in context of the time in which he's putting it out. All right. So let's get to it. This book right here, Chronology of the Bible. And I want to say that Dr. Ben referred to this as a pamphlet, which it really is. I got another one about this then, and I don't know if it was John G. Jackson who wrote it. I got one about this then from Dr. Clark too. But I guess you can call it a pamphlet. This book gives you not just an outline. I'm going to try to do some justice to this, but you can see it does provide an outline, and I've written some pretty extensive notes in this book. But he goes into a lot of different stuff in this book dealing with the Bible. Not just, in the like textual criticism, not just textual criticism. And if you don't know what textual criticism is, look up Bart D. Ehrman or Dan Wallace, William Lane Craig, maybe he's an apologist, but Dr. Ehrman, William Deaver, it's a bunch of different text critics, but Bart Ehrman is the biggest one that basically does it like, now I don't want to say against the Bible, but that's really what it is. And then Dan Wallace is a big proponent for the Bible, and they use textual criticism to make their points. Okay, so it's not just from a text criticism perspective, but he uses this to show you how 4,200 years before the Bible was written, before the New Testament was written, 4,200 years before that, you had the Bible of the Nile Valley civilization, which they would call the Peret Imharu. Some would say, some would call it the Book of the Dead. Some may call it the Papyrus of Ani. Some would say the Book of the Coming Forth by day and by night. Whatever you want to call it, that book, that work was basically the first Bible. And that's a point that Dr. Ben makes in here. Not Bible in the sense of King James, not that. But when you're talking about a holy writ, giving honor and praise to a deity who is considered the creator of all. When you're talking about that in that context, it is a Bible. So it's not saying that it's the books from Genesis to Revelation. It's not what he's saying. He's saying the first Bible, the first book, holy book, sacred book, written, that was dedicated, devoted to the all, the creator of the universe, to give honor and reverence to him. That first book was the Book of the Dead, that was written by Africans 4,200 years prior. He goes into a lot of information in this book. It's a chronology of the Bible. I definitely recommend that you read it. Hopefully you guys can see that. All right, this is genocide. When you read this book, and actually if you watch some of Dr. Ben's lectures on YouTube, you'll kind of get the same sense. But he makes the case, one of the greatest or most detrimental things that the colonizers took was the colonization of the image of God. All right, that when you allow someone else to define your idea and understanding of God, that is the greatest atrocity, the greatest damage that can be done, because now everything that you internalize is being internalized through the filter of that. And once you allow yourself to see God as something other than you, in other words, God's not you because he doesn't share your hue. Once you allow that to happen, to allow your concept and image understanding of God to be colonized, then it's all downhill from there. When we talk about cultural genocide, this is some of the things that Dr. Ben deals with in this book. Not just that, but all of the things that have throughout history been whitewashed and attributed to other races, other ethnicities, everything to try to diminish the African contribution. He deals with it and the effects that it had on people. So it's a great book to read. This one, Need for a Black Bible. I definitely recommend this, and so hold on. It's my other one. So I loan books out. So this would be volume 2 right here. The Myth of Genesis and Exodus. This would be volume 3. I loan volume 1 out. I do believe these books are fantastic, man. When I first read this book right here, this was one of the ones that actually got me into textual criticism. Okay, and Dr. Ben was not a text critic. Okay, he was a scholar, upper echelon scholar. All right, and some people try to knock Dr. Ben because of his writing style, and I've mentioned this before. Dr. Ben's writing style was unconventional. However, it was deliberate. He wrote and he used repetition. He simplified and sometimes oversimplified concepts because it helps you to learn the information. All right, so you have people who criticize his writing style and the format of his pages and the material and stuff like that. You have to understand, he was not necessarily writing to a scholarly audience. He's writing to a people whose identity has been lost or stripped away. He's writing to a people where high quality education had been withheld from them. He's writing to us, the everyday person. And so he didn't try to put it in an academic format. He wrote in a way that was understandable by the everyday Joe. Okay. And when you read Dr. Ben's work, he's not trying to wow you with large words and deep concepts. He gives you the information as is, easily digestible, but the quality of the information is not diminished nonetheless. This book right here, all right, The Myth of Genesis and Exodus. This is a fantastic book. And like I said, it got me into textual criticism because Dr. Ben was able to show where a lot of the information that shows up in the Bible, he was able to take you back to the original sources and show you those same stories in Africa, all right, predating the Bible by at least 4,000 years, 3,200 to 4,000 years. All right, the story of the dying and resurrecting Savior, the story of the Immaculate Conception, the story of the virgin birth, the story of God making man out of the dirt or the clay, the story of Noah's flood, all of this stuff, he shows you, not so fast. You put it in the Bible, but you failed to give credit to where it originally came from. And once I saw that, I was off to the races, So those two books, here's the other one. This is volume 3, The Need for a Black Bible by Dr. Ben. But when I read those books, it set me on a path that I'm still on today. I'm more into textual criticism now than at any point in my life. I study the Bible. I have you see this shelf over here. This whole bookcase is devoted. See down here in the corner right here. 1611 King James Bible. This one right here is the interlineal Hebrew English Bible. Then I have the Ethiopic Bible. Then I had the African Heritage Bible. Then the Septuagint. And then I go into a lot of other books. I got Philo. I got Eusebius. You know, I got deep into textual criticism, but it was because of works like this from Dr. Ben. When somebody can show you, because granted, I watched like Hidden Colors. And if you hadn't watched Hidden Colors, I recommend you go and watch it. And I watched documentaries like Whitewashed, Mayalpha 21, things like that. And you can hear the information and it sounds real good, right? But now you got to research it. And most people in the conscious community, when you hear them talk, they always tell you, don't believe what I say, research it. So you hear it said in the documentary. Now you got to go and research the information. So, you know, I heard the information put out in those documentaries, but I had to start researching the information, checking sources, fact checking, cross-referencing, establishing a timeline and stuff like that. So that's what I ended up doing. And that's how I come across Dr. Ben. This book right here, I would say a lot of people, even people who are proponents of Dr. Ben, haven't read. A lot of people, let me say this, a lot of people that I know of who supports and reads Dr. Ben's works, a lot of them haven't read this book. So it's understanding the African philosophical concept behind the diagram of the law of opposites. All right. When we talk about Mayat, Mayat. All right. We're talking about balance. We're talking about balance when we mention Mayat. The scales of Mayat are actually the sign for the zodiacal sign of Libra. All right. So Libras are said to be balanced people, calm, level-headed, whatever. Wordologists, I know because I'm a Libra, so that's my sign. But Mayat represents balance. When we deal with what was perverted in the original Trinity, so when we talk about the Trinity of Christianity, we deal with the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. But in ancient Kemet, Tamari, Ta-Nehisi, wherever you want to take it to, they would not have had the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. They would never have considered negating the divine feminine, the divine mother, Mut, Nun. They would never have eliminated that divine feminine energy and replaced it with this etheric being. All right, would not have happened. So that what threw the divine balance out of order. When you get into Mayat, you get into the law of opposites. You're talking about balance. Okay, you're talking about the yin and the yang, good and evil, God and Satan, a Set or a Sar in Set Typhon. You know, you're talking about positive, negative, dark, light, all of that. Everything has a balancing factor, matter and antimatter, right? Because there must be balance. So this book goes so far into this that I would never recommend it to somebody who's just getting started. I really wouldn't, because unless you're somebody who may have come from academic background, somebody who may have studied in an academic setting. It's not that it's an academic work. I just finished telling you about how Dr. Ben didn't really write in that format, but what he did in here, he goes through a lot of timeline and history and artifacts and different tribes of people and stuff like that. So if you don't have a stomach for that type of material, then you may lose interest relatively quickly. So I wouldn't recommend it for somebody who's just starting out. But it's definitely a great book by Dr. Ben. Now, We the Black Jews. This volumes 1 and 2 and 1. And you see the image on the front. It's pretty similar. All right, to a black man out of Nile and his family. We the Black Jews. Now remember, I just finished saying earlier that Dr. Ben family were Falashans, Ethiopian Jews. And when you get into the Limba tribe, the Igbo tribes, these different tribes, it's a book by Tex Morris. I know, just let's stop right there. I am not advocating for Tex Morris as a source that should be cited in any kind of intellectual or academic debate. Let's put that out there right now. So don't go and say that I'm using Tex Morris as a source. I am not. I think Tex Morris wrote this book. It's called DNA in the Jewish Bloodline. And in there, he goes through and cites some different DNA studies that have been performed, or DNA trials, tests that have been performed on who we refer to as the Jewish people. And it actually shows they don't have any Jewish DNA. And so they go back, or maybe I should say Hebrew DNA, but they go back and trace it back, and they test the people, different tribes in Africa, and find that the Limba tribe and the Igbo tribe both possess way more Jewish or Hebrew DNA than the people who actually occupy Israel today. I bring that up because the Falashans are mentioned in that book. The Ethiopian Jews, when you get to dealing with the Igbo tribe, the Igbo people, and the Limba people, you're definitely going to come across the Falashans. So this book is pretty good. You know, it's not a quick read. You're going to have to put some time in. I like to use this book whenever I'm talking to Black Hebrew Israelites as well, because of some of the information that's in here that contradicts their theory on being Hebrew. I saved this book for last on purpose. All right, because if you've read Dr. Ben, more than likely, this is the book. All right, Dr. Ben is probably most known for this book right here, Black Man Out of Nile and His Family. All right, this book, and I've read it several times. See, looks like I still got the receipt here from when I bought it. No, this it's another book I bought. Receipt. Dr. Carruthers, Jacob Carruthers, wrote an excellent book on the Meta Nature. But this book, man, oh my God, he went through so much information in here. Let's say the Sumer, talking about which ones came first, whether the Sumerian people actually had language before the people in Africa had language or script writing, right? He dealt with the incense burner that was found. If I'm not mistaken, he dealt with the Shango bone, all of these different artifacts. I mean, he goes deep in this book. If you're gonna read one of Dr. Ben's works, or you're trying to decide which one to read first, I would definitely recommend this one. Again, you know, it's not a quick read. It's definitely something that you're gonna have to take your time with, about 450 pages, but it is definitely worth it. He goes through King's List. He went through so much information in this book that I had never heard anybody deal with adequately. And remember, this is when I was just waking up, so I'm not trying to insinuate or implement or imply rather that he was the only one who dealt with the information. At the time that I came across him, he was the first one that I'd heard deal with the information. So once I got to studying the information, then I'd come across other people who was also presenting similar information or the same information in a different context using different sources. But that's Dr. Ben. You know, these are the works that we looked at today. I definitely recommend that you guys check Dr. Ben out. You know, look him up on YouTube, find his videos, watch the lectures, but because it's worth it. You know, I think that it's important for you to hear what he has to say, because he put out a lot of information that you don't hear being presented anymore. I think that one of the mistakes, which could prove fatal, is that the younger generation can come along. We say we're standing on the shoulders of our elders, but you have to be careful to stand and not stump, because if you're standing on their shoulders and you're stumping, you push them down further and further until they cease to be of any influence. And I think that a lot of young people made that mistake. A lot of people that come in the conscious community today have made that mistake of kind of discarding these scholars because of the time when they wrote their works and when they did their presentations and lectures. They've kind of been discarded, but you know, I adjure you to actually go back, revisit the work, and study it. Look at the presentation, look at the slides, look at the steles, look at the text that they present, and listen to them articulate to you why you have to reevaluate history and religion. And it's gonna be almost impossible to do one without the other because religion shaped history. But you watch those videos, Dr. Ben, give them a fair shake. Don't just discard them. Watch the videos. They grainy. You know, you can see the snow in the video is real grainy, kind of hard to see. The audio sucks on a lot of them, but I think that's kind of the nostalgia behind going back in time, listening to some of these scholars. I love it. You know, I've set up and watched videos that were 11 hours from Bobby Hemmett. 11-hour videos. You know, I sit up and watch 2-3 hour videos, lectures, Runoko Rashidi, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, Dr. Ben, Dr. Ashford Kwesi, you know, Dr. John Henry Clark, Shaka Musa Barashungo, Jacob Carruthers, Asa G. Hilliard. These guys, man, they all over the place. And probably my favorite one to listen to is Dr. Amos Wilson. If you don't know him, this is probably his most popular book, Blueprint for Black Power, Dr. Amos Wilson. I could sit and watch Dr. Amos Wilson, I'm talking about for days, because he's so methodical, so meticulous in his word selection and how he lays out his case. And I love it. So I could listen to him and Dr. Francis Cress Welsing. You know, I kind of see those two being like another version of James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni. If you ever watch that interview between James Baldwin and Nikki Giovanni, that interview was amazing because it was two Black intellectuals sitting there articulating things that affect and even plague the Black community, dialoguing openly, disagreeing with one another, but not in debate. You know, I would have loved to have seen Dr. Francis Cress Welsing and Dr. Amos Wilson sit down and have a conversation of similar nature to what Nikki Giovanni and James Baldwin did. I think it would have been powerful. So I got the stomach for it, and I understand that's not everybody's cup of tea. You may not like that, but I do. Go back, watch Dr. Ben. I know when I first started, I didn't tell you to, but you need to hit that like button, subscribe, turn on your notifications. Go ahead and do that now as I get ready to wrap this up. Again, you guys check out Dr. Yosef Ben Jochannan, and once you watch his videos, you're going to come across Dr. John Henry Clark, Dr. Ivan Van Sertima, these other names that you're going to hear. You're going to hear Dr. Ben refer to things like, I don't want to call it the Book of the Dead, but a lot of you guys know it by that name, so I'll call it that, like the Book of the Dead. Well, when you hear these things come up, go out and get them. Research them. If you can't buy it, I understand 100%. Go online, find an ebook or electronic copy. A lot of times it's free PDFs and downloads and stuff. Do your research. Don't just take it from authority, because that's a logical fallacy. When you argue from authority, you know, you just want to name drop. But Dr. Ben said it, so, you know, it is what it is. No, it's not. You got to actually go and do the research, all right? Verify Dr. Ben's sources. And matter of fact, when you're reading chronology of the Bible, when you're reading this book, at some point in here, Dr. Ben tells you that you need to go and read another book. I think it's Black Man's Religion. But he tells you to go and read that other book in order to get a better understanding of what he was saying in this book. So that's done a lot of the times. So you need to make sure when you see that you actually go out and get the other book. I can't find it, and I want to hold you up. But he tells you for a deeper understanding or a better understanding, you need to go out and read the book. Here it is. So he say, for further details beyond this pamphlet, you should read volume 3 of the Black Man's Religion. All right. So he's telling you, hey, when you read this work, don't just take this and run with it. There's another work that you need to read so that you can have context. Very important to have context behind what's being said, because in here, he's just really giving you an outline. Now you need to be able to take each one of those bullet points that were outlined and go deeper into them and get context. All right, seems to be a lost art nowadays. People don't like to do that, so make sure you go and read the like Hidden Colors. I still recommend Hidden Colors. All right, you can order the DVD off Amazon, I believe, is where I got mine. Uh, but it's like 5 volumes, if I'm not mistaken, 5 different DVDs. Uh, I think the fifth one was actually 1805, dealing with the Haitian Revolution, or something like that. I got it. I've watched it. It's been a minute, but it's dealing with the Revolution of Haiti. Uh, Toussaint Overture, all of the characters, Duty Bookman, uh, Fatima, all of the characters who played a part in the Haitian Revolution. It's dealing with them. So watch that. But I would definitely say once you watch Hidden Colors, you need to research. Some stuff that's said in there is not necessarily true. Okay, it's not necessarily accurate. So don't just watch, Hidden Colors and then go and start parroting information that you heard in there. Uh, you need to actually watch it, and then when it's something that you think you're gonna repeat in a conversation with somebody, research that thing and make sure that it's verified before you go repeating that information to other people. Do your research, guys. Don't just take this information and run with it. Hidden Colors, what was the other? Mayalpha 21. It's another one that I highly recommend. Mayalpha 21. It's MAAFA. MAAFA. Mayalpha 21. They're going to deal with eugenics and Planned Parenthood and a lot of other things in the Black community, the Africans in the diaspora. So that's another one that I recommend you watch as well. And then Whitewashed was the last one. You go and you watch these videos and stuff. Again, make sure you do your research because not everything in every one of them is accurate. So you owe it to yourself and the people that you're going to communicate that information to research those things out. That's it. That's all I got. Hopefully you guys watched this and enjoyed it. If you have questions, comments, you know what a comment section at. Hit me up, decktalkingdevil@gmail.com. If you have questions directly for me that you don't want to put in the comment section, you can definitely send me an email, decktalkingdevil@gmail.com. Turn on those notifications, subscribe, pound that like button, punch it right now, like right now, literally. Stop watching and hit the like button several times. That's all I got. This has been the Deck Talking Devil. Until next time, keep learning, my friend.